Welcome to today's episode of Wheel of Destruction, the place where franchises come to die. As the wheel spins, who will be next? And it's coming down, and Indiana Jones! Hello and welcome to Westfox, and we are at a location bringing back the fedora because they're in style. I mean, granted, Christopher's looks like he's a little disabled.
Christopher looks like he came from the 1920s and was sick as a hobo. That's what
I don't know what's happened there. So the reason we started this conversation is I've noticed a little bit of talk, a little bit of chatter coming out about the next Indiana Jones movie, and in the sense of kind of the pre-analytics of this movie, I want to talk about a little bit and kind of get going the conversation of what's going on with the movie, what's happening so far, our thoughts on the people working on it, and what the most likely choice of the plan and process is going on back there. So get ready for an exciting episode of Westfox. Welcome to the show. So, one of the things I'd say that I didn't take into account during this process of Lucasfilm is I didn't really think about them owning the Indiana Jones rights. I'll be honest, it wasn't one that I thought about because they haven't really talked about it. It's kind of one of those franchises that hasn't been touched in quite a while, since the ill-fated Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which was critically, I would say, it was pre the time of movies being defended or attacked by critics. It was pretty much universally, I would say, panned as a bad movie. I don't think anybody was like, oh man, we really wanted that follow-up with that movie.
I think that's why I never considered they'd go back to it, because I kind of felt they'd already blew it 10 years ago. So I'm actually surprised to hear them wanting to redig the corpse they already put into the grave 10 years ago.
12 years ago.
12 years, yeah.
Give or take.
2008.
It's been a rumored movie. I mean, that movie started the meme of, blowing the fridge up, essentially launching the fridge, something of that nature, right?
Nuking the fridge.
Nuking the fridge. There you. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you there, Shepard. Nuking the fridge. I mean, I remember watching that in the theaters, and it was one of those scenes that you're like, no. I mean, Indiana Jones has always been pretty grounded in reality. It obviously had a Christian / mysticism level to it, of spirituality, let's say.
Well, don't forget, the Temple of Doom is very cultic, demonic, pulling out hearts. And,
but that fall into like spiritual stuff, demonic stuff.
Well, let's put it this way.
At least the physics, give or take, looked real. A nuclear blast and being protected by a refrigerator is stupid.
Go ahead, Shepard.
They try to say that obviously the lead stops the nuclear radiation. You're like, yeah. But then you're sitting there going, I don't care who you are and what. You get tumbled in a box like that and thrown 3,000 miles or a mile.
If the energy is enough to launch the fridge far enough away that it did, you're not going to die from radiation poisoning. You're going to die from your fact that you're a liquid in that refrigerator.
Yes, exactly.
But anyway, so
plus there's no such thing as lead-lined refrigerators in the 19.
Yeah, I mean that
was supposed to be 60s. Was that 60s or 50? Was that 60s for?
I think it was 50s.
Kingdom
either late 50s or 60s, something like that, because it was like the kind of Cold War.
During the Cold War.
Yeah.
Entering into the Cold War at that point.
Cold War.
I mean, it's one of those things that nitpicking over if there's lead-lined fridge is far less relevant if you can survive a nuclear explosion being launched from the impact of the explosion. So you have what I consider as Indiana Jones 1, the Ark of the Covenant, being one of the best movies of all time. You then follow
Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark being one of the best movies of the all time.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have that followed up by what I consider a pretty terrible movie, which is
Temple of Doom.
Temple of Doom. I had all these movies in my brain. I don't know why I'm forgetting right now. Temple of Doom. And then we have Last Crusade, which is probably one of the best movies ever made.
Yeah,
it's on my top list since forever is some of the best movies ever made. The chemistry of Harrison Ford.
That one. They always mention Raiders, but they never mention The Last Crusade.
Last Crusade's so good. The chemistry between
Probably
between
because
Harrison
it's way
Ford,
because it's really going for Christian.
yeah, and Sean Connery was so perfect that I remember as a kid, I thought they were actually related as father and son until I understood that they're actors type thing, because they just
Right, me too.
they were just so good. I'm like, wait, they're not related, because they just came off so good and their dynamics were so perfect. And Sean Connery was both so serious and hilarious. The innuendos in the movie were well placed, because obviously there's a couple of dirty things that the movie innuendos. You know, the fact that
She talks in her sleep.
they were both. Yeah,
How do you know that?
yeah.
No, I mean,
I didn't
like,
trust
talk
her.
about the
Why did
chemistry.
you?
Half the Harrison Ford and Sean Connery speak to each other in that movie more with looks than they do even literal lines. I mean, one word, she talks in her sleep, and he looks at him like,
Yes,
and he puts,
yes.
and a little smirk even comes on his face, like, I'm disgusted, but I'm also
Proud of you,
very
yeah.
proud.
And this is how we say goodbye in Germany. Pop. I like the Austrian way. So did I.
So good, so good. So essentially, we have, you know, like I said, in my book, two masterpieces and two failures when it comes to Indiana Jones.
Absolutely.
The King of the Crystal Skull is it just a bad movie? It's just
So maybe that's setting a good precedent since this one's number 5. It's been all the odd numbered ones that have done well.
you would think that in the sense of numbering and having fun, but unfortunately, the
naive.
precedent is not looking that way. As you know,
Well, and
go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, and I know I sent it in the text message to you guys, but I do have I do say it almost honestly. Is this really Indiana Jones, or should this be called Henry Jones Jr. 2?
Well, that starts to get into, so since the time of when the last one was made, we obviously had Lucasfilm being taken over by Disney. So we have kind of a company that is pretty much afraid of creative risks right now, it seems like, unless it's to pander to certain groups. Even then failing at doing that, they're just kind of like lip service to different groups. You have a more agenda on, more focus on agenda than storytelling, lack of pushing the boundary, lack of planning. That's Disney as an overall studio. I don't think is in the best place on a creativity sense. Then you have Lucasfilm, which is legitimately a studio division in turmoil. Nothing positive has come out from that studio after the last Star Wars movies, and Rise of Skywalker. And you've seen our channel, you can see our opinions on that. So we're not going to really delve into that. But the studio
I
from
don't
the
think anything
totally
worthwhile. Nothing good's come out of them since. I mean, particularly Star Wars related, even prequels. I mean, we're talking 30 years.
Yeah, I think the only thing that so far people have generally liked is The Mandalorian. But again, there's been all the stuff when they've canceled the Obi-Wan movie because it was supposedly they were done with writing it, and they said nope, it was bad, and we canceled it even though we were supposed to start filming.
Well,
and on the level,
they said it looked. I think it was Kathleen Kennedy's words saying, well, first off, she said I think a year or two ago that the scripts were already written. And then yet it comes to film and they go, oh, it's way too similar to The Mandalorian.
Well,
I don't know how you can be in the same house and not realize you're doing similar projects, and then not until you're filming go, ooh, this is really close. So someone lied. I'm going to go with Kathleen Kennedy
lying.
lied.
Yeah. And so that's where it goes right next to Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen Kennedy has a lot of things. She says, this is not going to be a reboot. It's a continuation. And I look at what Star Wars was, and I go, well, that was pretty much a soft reboot. So in my book, this will be a soft reboot, probably pushing it forward into something in the other time, blah, blah, blah. I'm actually surprised that she has anything to say. Granted, this was done at the BAFTA Awards when she won that award. So in the end, I don't know if she's gone full figurehead there or she's just talking out of a question was asked. She wanted to say something and put her stamp on it. I don't know yet. Things that we do know, which is the director is supposed to be Steven Spielberg, which is the original director. And so I wanted to pull up the images here on the Steven Spielberg here. And so the thing is, Steven Spielberg, who is legitimately a legacy, high level director. Directed some of the biggest movies, some of the oldest movies. But
At least was.
at the same time, he hasn't really done anything specifically new or good in the last while. So you start looking at his, Animaniacs TV series. So that's probably a reboot. Gremlins 3, executive producer. Let's look at actually director here. Let's look at director stuff.
Well, if you're going to go into that, Joel, I did go into the list, and we can show it on there. But as to your point, I'd say that through 89, I know that's only hitting the last Indiana Jones, but I'd say between 89 to 99 was really probably some of his golden years of movies. Because you have Last Crusade in 89, you have Hook in 91.
Amazing movie. Another amazing movie.
You have Jurassic Park and Schindler's List in 93. And then you have Saving Private Ryan in 98. And I would say that all of those movies, most of those obviously were important to us as kids, obviously.
Well, they
Hook
justify
and,
him.
You didn't
Crusade.
include E.T. in that one. That surprised me.
Well,
I don't think he directed E.T. I didn't show it on that list unless it's way below.
Yeah, no, E.T. he did.
Yeah, he directed E.T.
1980.
He might have produced Philip, but I don't think he directed.
Oh, 82.
It is directed by.
You started your list at 89. Gotcha. Fair enough. I was just curious.
So,
I didn't know.
But in the sense of it, yes, he had a great time there. And then you start looking at the more recent stuff, and you start ending up with stuff that, some are decent
I would
movies,
say out of
but not critically successful.
I'd say between his aughts to 2010, I'd say the best one out of them was The Terminal, which was the Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I'd agree. That was my standout.
From 2010 to 2020, I'd say
I love that movie.
War Horse and Lincoln.
Catch Me If You Can is a really good movie too.
Yeah, that wasn't bad either.
Okay.
So,
like I said, there's some that are not bad, but
okay.
they're definitely not to the same caliber as, like I said, those 89 to 99 movies are ingrained in obviously our childhood and within the culture.
Mm-hmm. Yes, agreed.
Like you say Schindler's List, you say Saving Private Ryan, you're going to get people's response. It's like, oh man, oh yeah, that movie brought me to tears. That movie is awesome. And, Terminal I like. Lincoln I liked, but I wouldn't probably put in that same thing. And I know they have on there too. I didn't realize that Ready Player One was actually Spielberg.
Yeah, and I would say that's probably more along the lines of what concerns me in that vein, which is a movie that's, and it's a fine movie in the sense of it was watchable. A lot of the plot points didn't make sense. It was kind of a mess in the sense of motivations and story, and kind of ironically, being someone who is kind of the director of a lot of pop culture movies, it missed the point of pop culture movies beyond the depth. It was like, tell us a fact, and you're like, oh, the DeLorean goes 88 miles per hour. And you're like, what's the theme of the movie? And they're like, oh, we're not talking about themes of movies and why characters' motivations and why, Marty learning that reacting to me called a yellow belly had meaning to it. They're like, no, just how many miles per hour does the DeLorean go? 88, that's time travel. Cool, done. You win the game. And you're like, oh, but what about the whole moral? What's the moral of the story? And they're like, we don't care about that.
Well, this also just goes to show you that in Hollywood, if 30 to 40% of your films are good, you're considered a good director. I mean, if you really take a look through all these different things, there's a lot of misses. And, I get it. There's some things are more missed than others. But it just kind of, think about it this way, too. He has a handful of movie franchises like Jurassic Park and Indiana Jones, and even in those franchises, they're hit and miss. Jurassic Park basically has one good movie, the first one.
Yeah, I think people like the
Indiana
second
Jones,
one.
as we've discussed.
I think people do. I think the second one is still liked. I didn't put it on that list.
Jurassic Park was never a giant franchise for me, to be honest. But that's
well, I agree with you, but there's like 6 of them now.
Yeah,
right?
but those aren't directed by him now.
No, it's true. But what I'm just saying, but he did direct the second one, and it's kind of like, meh. So, like I said, even within his own creations, he's still hit and miss. Now, not to say that, again, if everyone else around you only gets it right 5% of the time, and you get it right 45% of the time, okay, that's fair. Then that means that in that field, you are by far superior compared to everyone else. But if you compared it to any other universe of work, being wrong 60% of the time makes you a failure.
Well, yeah, and I had to think that thought too. It's like, how much for directors do they get? They maybe have like Spielberg, 10 years of great movies, or within 10-year period have a few great movies, and then they're put as a highbrow director. But it's like, at what point then does that get taken away?
I mean,
or does it ever get taken away? Cause, you know, it's like, because then, like you said, Philip said, they can make great movies in the 90s, and then they're thinking as that they're great people, but it's like ever since then they're not making anything worthwhile, and people are still like, yeah, but it's Spielberg.
Yeah, see, directors get now on the defense of that. I think directors get
Like they get tenure.
I think directors get a lot of forgiveness because things are touched by the studios. There's things that are hit and miss. You know, you try to be creative, it doesn't always land. It's understandable. The question's going to go farther. The biggest question with Spielberg comes to we've had a kind of a lot of directors come back, and like James Cameron come back to the Terminator franchise and then essentially undo his second movie that's considered the best of the Terminators and go, oh, F that movie, even though it's the most famous of the movies, and we're going to kill John Connor. Spoilers, I'm sorry, I don't care. The element of it where you're dealing with directors who come back and go, oh, I don't like my old work. I mean, even George Lucas is guilty of this. So the question comes into...
Well, he's famous.
He's probably the number
notorious,
one.
yeah. So
person.
So the question comes into it, will Steven Spielberg come back with respect for the property, or is he going to run with modern politic agendas or be adjusted for? Is it going to be a true Indiana Jones movie? Granted, Harrison Ford's quite a bit older now, even older than he was in the last movie. So he can't be an action hero anymore. It just looks bad. It doesn't work. It just physically doesn't work. So the bigger thing that starts coming into it when we look at this is who's writing the screenplay? And this is where for me it starts going a little bit concerning. And you go in here and you say, okay, Kasdan, and you start looking at things these written. And,
Solo.
And you notice that the list is short, which is interesting to me because you have one episode of a show in 2000, 4 episodes of another 5 total looks like of Dawson's Creek. One movie or something here. Who knows what that is? Let's see. In the Land of Women. And not very well rated. A 6.3 on IMDb is pretty rough.
Yeah.
And did anybody recognize the names? No. So probably something. The First Time. Let's see. Another movie.
2012. What is this?
Not any names that specifically jump out to me there either.
Yeah, so you have a D-class writer. Oh, Solo.
Yeah, and then Solo, and then this one. So the lead writer, according to this one, actually it's interesting because some of the news say the other guy is that Philip, David Cope is actually the higher writer on it, depending on which articles you read, which is interesting to me, but again, it's irrelevant. The point is, okay, Kasdan, who's obviously related to actually the more famous writer, Kasdan, which is too bad. His father's not actually doing this. You go in here into David, and you start looking at his stuff, and you go, okay, The Mummy, that was bad.
Terrible.
Inferno, don't even know what that is. Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit, not good. I mean, it was medium. Like it just
I mean, like it's a C-class film, which is just meaninless.
Angels and Demons, terrible. Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
Do
we need
the fact that they?
I mean, that's a black mark.
They took I mean, like I said, the second movie in the Indiana Jones is terrible, and I know a lot of people don't feel that way, but if you watch it, even apart from the the gross and the demonic and the occultic portions, it's actually very slow.
Oh, it's a boring movie. I don't care at that part. I don't care at that part. It'd be interesting.
It's so boring, and not to mention the Asian boy and the woman are the most obnoxious people. I mean,
they made them
you don't like Short Round, Mr. Jones?
Yeah, I was like, I mean,
the movie's camp.
It was almost like they tried to sabotage themselves.
It's
a
camp
watch
movie,
and you'd think that it was a parody.
It really is. The difference when you look at the difference of like tonality and style between those two, they're night and day difference. Like I said, it doesn't even compare. It's very odd, like I said, because the third movie is just spectacular. Even though I said the first one's spectacular, so the difference of tone and shooting style.
The fact that they produced, and the fact that someone read that script for the fourth one, went through the scenes, recorded it, put it all together, and said, "I'd put my name to this," is terrifying. eventually. I mean,
Well,
I get it. You get
and
paid,
again-
you get money, whatever. But oh my gosh,
I was talking to the friend about this, and there's the band called Devo. Do you know who that is?
yeah. Sadly, I do.
They do one song, and the song is called Whip It. Whip It Good. And it's their one-hit wonder.
Yep.
It's all they play. It's the only somebody cares about. They probably have made millions off licensing that one song because it's used all the time in things because it's funny. But that'd be like, I feel like sometimes these writers are being reused, and they're like, see, I made a good movie once. I made this really good song, one-hit wonder once. You guys used to hire me. And I really do question how they keep getting hired over and over again without proving themselves. And hey, I get it. It's a job. You want to survive. But don't we want good stories? If you can't put out good stories, go work on some smaller stories and then come back and do the big ones. I'm not saying you can't work on these again, but we're seeing people go from one giant franchise movie to another giant franchise movie. And you're like...
And they're terrible.
And they're just bad movies. And you're going in here and going, wait, why? I feel like there was something else in here that was just like...
I mean, the fact that he was involved with the Crystal Skull is, as far as I'm concerned,
it's concerning.
Should eliminate you from
Red
being allowed.
flag.
Period.
So you have a lot of people who are just...
He's also got the Crystal Skull. My goodness.
Yeah, but he's characters, so I'm unsure how they break that down. So I don't know if that's because they're like, oh, a character that's included from it.
Right.
Now, granted, characters that are not coming back is Indiana Jones' son, which is interesting to me. Not surprising.
Good. He's insane.
That was a terrible choice.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
I don't
It was a terrible choice how it was done, but at the same point, kind of going back to what you were saying for
Who would ever look
Kathleen
at
Kennedy,
Harrison Ford and say, yeah, Shia LaBeouf, that's what would come from that sack. Come on,
that's not
seriously?
even my problem with it. It really isn't. It was
What's
just
yours, Christopher?
my problem. Well, because I actually like the fact that, again, so what Kathleen Kennedy said with her, it's not a reboot, it's a continuation. I'm already kind of like, I don't know how you continue a story that, in my mind, ended in '89, because again, Crystal Skull really isn't. So you have a story that's now what, 30 years later, 40 years later, that we're picking up. If it was '89 to 2020.
Oh, you mean from the last one? Yeah.
Well, we don't know what the time frame's going to be, but I mean,
But I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the simple sense of like our time frame. But I'm saying, how are they going to continue this? Like, it was already kind of my thought, and like, and I'll pose that question to you guys. How would you think to continue it? But so I didn't mind in the sense that I didn't mind in the sense that Crystal Skull gave the sense of saying he was going to pass the baton to his son, and admittedly, it made sense that he would have a son with the first girl from the first movie, if anybody. So in that sense, those things make sense. It's just the rest of the movie and the way they did it. Because I'm like, I wouldn't have mind maybe the fact that, well, and I know it's not going to happen because Harrison Ford's pretty much said once he's dead, Indiana Jones is dead.
Well, he said that, but we all know he has no control over that.
He has no say in it. But
they will totally reboot that franchise. Like there's no doubt.
Of course.
And
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
It's guaranteed. They're going to reboot it. This movie, what we know is,
like you said, that's why it has to be a soft reboot. This has to be a soft reboot of some kind because they're clearly not going to continue any. Like I said, I don't know what you continue from the original ones in a normal sense, like actually continuing the story, other than, like I said, a pass the baton makes the most sense. Again, as a continuation of the story at this point, but it's not a continuation. It had to be a reboot.
Here's the thing: Indiana Jones' adventure, and adventure comes from, and it's a style of adventure that is archaeological, finding cool things that are either mysteries or tunnels. It's what the whole Uncharted games were based on, right? Pretty much Uncharted.
Right.
Uncharted is the closest thing we have to a modern Indiana Jones, and those are great. They freaking the last. Yep. I haven't played them all, but the first, second, and I think it's either the fourth or fifth game. I forget how many there are total. But the final game is spectacular. It's great. I would love to see an actual good done version of that movie. It's got delayed again. Of course, it'll probably never happen because they keep doing that stuff. But the point is,
probably for the best.
Probably for the best. Agreed. The difference is what we have now is, what is the adventure, right? Is it another Bible adventure, or is it Atlantis? Can't do aliens again? That's stupid. The mysticism stuff kind of boring. You have to find something that, the reason those work is because the Ark of the Covenant,
based on some kind of fact.
Well, the Ark of the Covenant, generally people know about, especially farther back in time,
right,
in the 80s, because that was part of like basic Christian theology, right?
Yeah.
Like there's the Ark, 10 Commandments, Lost, blah blah blah.
The Grail, of course, is a classic.
Yeah, the Holy Grail.
That's been in literature for
used throughout.
hundreds of years.
Anime uses it constantly, both as a negative and a positive element, right? You could maybe see the Philosopher's Stone could be an interesting thing. That's used a lot in different mediums as a thing to find. But again, the Philosopher's Stone's kind of a generic type wish granter versus a like kind of more standard thing. Even the powers of, look at how the end results are, because a lot of movies don't go and win. Even the third, that's the thing, difference too. Even the fourth Indiana Jones, they found the crystal skulls and the aliens go bye-bye. You compare that to the first Indiana Jones, Ark of the Covenant. They find the covenant. So they find the Ark. They actually find it. Everyone dies. The government says, we have top men looking at it.
We have top men working on it. Who?
Top men.
Top men.
Yeah, and then you have the last one, which is the Ark. The Holy Grail gets lost down into the
pipe hole. Yep.
Yeah, pretty much lost into. I would essentially call it God taking it away from reality. Essentially, in this case.
You chose wisely, Philip.
Yeah. So what do you do that's something that he can obtain that's legitimate?
Yes.
And then they can't use again, right? That's kind of the standard plot of it. It's finding the thing and then the thing in the museum. So I don't know what that
X
is.
doesn't mark the spot.
Well,
X never marks the spot.
Well, if we stuck with pseudo-Christianity, I mean, you could do things like the spear of Longinus, who supposedly was the spear that stabbed the side of Christ.
Right, but what is that supposed to do?
What is it supposed to do?
Yeah, what's it supposed to do? Like everything has to do something.
Right,
Well,
like it has
technically, the Ark of the Covenant didn't necessarily have anything to do.
So
It was a relic that they didn't know what the powers were.
Well, here's the
So
thing.
you could do the same thing with the spear of Longinus.
It's repetitive.
Well, I don't know, because
No,
it
I'm
kind
not
of made
saying I
sense
want
for the
this. I'm
Nazis
just
trying
saying
to go for the cult.
Here's the
reason why they wanted to find
saying I
the
want
Ark.
Here's the
that
question, though. What do you think they will do? Because I would expect mine would be Atlantis.
They'll avoid Christianity, so that's good because it was pseudo-Christian. It was so bad anyway.
So they'll probably do either. My thoughts would be Atlantis, Shangri-La.
I could see Shangri-La.
I could see that.
Locate.
Mummy did that, but didn't the third Mummy kind of do Shangri-La?
They don't
At a
care about
point.
that. They freaking they repeat everything as it is.
Well, okay.
Actually,
yeah,
what the question
fair
is,
enough.
you know how you actually can answer this question? What area sounds best when Harrison Ford says it? That's the question. The way he whimsically talks about his Harrison Ford voice. Well, the Ark of the Covenant, blah 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 blah. Or when he's talking about the Grail. And he's repeating the words in his mouth. You have to hear it. Does the word in Harrison Ford saying Shangri-La, does that ring?
Well,
No,
again, I'm
it
not a
doesn't
huge fan
to
of
me.
Shangri-La, or Atlantis is one of those ones again too that unless it goes full Stargate and Atlantis, that's
Yeah,
legit.
it's too big.
It turns into you found a dead city or there's people here, and it gets kind of complicated. Actually, it technically was.
And you kind of go, you
the
kind
Crystal
of
Skull
could get into
Atlantis.
that, back to that like alien.
Well, basically, that's
thing
what Crystal
easily.
Skull was.
Was it-
a
was that
giant
kind of what it
city
was?
With the
Yeah.
with the UFO
Kind of was
attached
Atlantis.
to it
Yep.
that disappeared.
So
Yeah.
again, I don't know
You'd have
where
to
they're
think
going.
relic.
Yeah, I don't know where they're going to go down. To be honest, there's just it could just make something up too. But I don't think making it up works as well for Indiana Jones because
I don't think so.
Bermuda Triangle could be something. Those are the kind of things that would have something mysteries. We'll have to look that up in the future and see as rumors come out.
Because it has to be something more than just mystery. Like you said, there has to be. I mean, I guess it's not really so for
it
the
has to be a
Temple of
relic.
Doom, which is why it didn't do well. But it's like, again, like you said, the Ark of the Covenant. Then they're able to pull from historic texts. They're able to pull from the Bible to pull, like, obviously, like you're saying, Philip, not exactly verbatim, but at least they're actually able to pull from historical things. For the same thing for the Ark of the, for the
Illuminati.
Holy Grail. Like what's his face? Like actually, he says, the Arthurian legend. Yeah, of course I know the Ark. So it's like there was things to pull from, and I don't know if
Excalibur would be cool. A little overdone.
Excalibur
But that
would be
actually
interesting.
kinda fun.
I think
Excalibur
that would be a
connection.
cool one.
That could be interesting. They could tie into I could see them taking that and tying it into. I'm talking what I would predict, tying that into some kind of cultic thing or some kind of like cabal. It's the King Arthur cabal, and they're secretly trying to control the world or something. I could see something like that.
My only fear with that is you get sometimes if you kind of go in that a little bit too close, especially if we start using items again, you might start falling into the Assassin's Creed realm of all of them trying to find the pieces of Eden kind of stuff, and there might be some murky waters.
I don't know. Just one thing isn't a big deal.
Yeah, and
yeah, but
no
I'm just saying if you're gonna say a cult of people that are trying to find an ancient piece of technology to better themselves,
it's so overused anyway in the sense of like storytelling that using it as long as it's done creatively. Now, granted, the whole part of this
you'd have to do it creatively.
Is good screenwriting. Good screenwriting,
exactly,
which we don't see a lot of.
I'd say Fountain of Youth, but that's kind of too close to the Grail.
That's not bad though. That's not. Yeah, it is like.
I mean, that would be an interesting one for that'd be an interesting one for Harrison to want to find, especially as an old man.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It would be motivating. There's things. So,
like, there's some motivation there.
Yeah. So we have possibilities. I mean, again. He's older, so I
doubt they're going to go with any of them.
Well, yeah, he need good ideas. Again, I don't have a good idea for this. I feel like
that's the thing. They have to be something that I would say they'd have to be something that people know, but then they also went with the weird Indian shaman stones. So, I mean, they could pull from any. I mean, they could pull from anything that they wanted. Think about all the world religions and cults and everything else.
And you want to make it.
I think you hit a point there, Philip, that I don't want to fully go on to, but I wonder if they're going to pull from a certain religion.
Nah. I could see them doing something.
It starts with I.
I could see them pulling for something more.
Ends with Sharia law.
I could see them more pulling it from something like, what's the big heads? The statues of the heads on Easter Island. Yeah, Easter Island stuff.
Why not Stonehenge? Because you probably could go alien with that.
I can see Stonehenge too, but yeah. So those different areas.
But it's usually alien again.
Yeah, but there's a lot of different areas there. So then the question comes into the thing that I think is interesting. So as of December, they said they hadn't finished the script yet, and they were still working on it. Now, which means they probably haven't started it. Just saying.
Yes.
In all honesty, they probably haven't started it yet, knowing this group. But the interesting thing is. The release date currently is set for July 9th, 2021.
I saw that. That's crazy.
And you start looking at it and going, oh, wait. Most likely a effects, somewhat heavy movie, planning logistics in about a year and a half?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Does this seem like the studio that cranks things out effectively and efficiently?
No, never.
Edits things and is good at being efficient with their time and knocking out great products?
No. I'm going to go ahead and say right now that around, they said it's July, so around April or June, you're going to hear that they're still doing reshoots.
Knowing the trend, yes, and that comes down to they delay it. Yeah, well, they can delay it. They can delay this one easier. They could not. Yeah. I mean, they could have delayed Star Wars, but they wouldn't because it was January. Oh, they got lucked out. I mean, they didn't. They shouldn't have delayed it. I mean, they made the right call not delaying it because the only reason they made as much money as they did on this one is because there was no competition.
Yep.
It was Christmas and no competition. And I apologize if you hear rumbling. I have a bunch of lightning going on. So hear lightning really cool, and rumbles.
Yeah, I do.
Might just be white noise for me. I don't know.
Dang, that's crazy loud lightning out there. But anyway, so yeah, the time frame to me is probably another concerning element coming in here. Is we don't see any cast stuff done yet. Like I said, there's nothing on IMDb so far. All we know is director, and we know who's working on it on that end. And nothing puts huge amounts of confidence in me. And the short time frame also doesn't. So I don't. Again, this is the joke. Is at the beginning of this segment is destruction of another franchise, man. And that's what kind of concerns us. Is are they just going to wing it and be like, slap Indiana Jones on the label and go, cool, here's another Indiana Jones for you guys. And people have been burned off the last one. So Indiana Jones to me, like I said, it's a legacy brand, one that, like I said, dearly touches my heart. And again, I'll have the first and third ones forever, as it's got the greatest movies, some of the greatest movies of all time. I got that. You have Indiana Jones, Star Wars, original trilogy, and Lord of the Rings is like I said, some of my greatest movies of all time. And so I really struggle to see how they're going to come in and make an elevated movie. The only way to do it is legitimate planning and thought and going, how do we take this character and push Indiana Jones into a legit mentorship character role as a guide, a teacher, and he's not fighting the people off. He has to be in a place more along the lines of, actually, you reference the Uncharted, and because what's the bigger guy who was smoking cigars in that one?
Sam?
Sully.
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 So he has to play more of a Sully role to if there's a new character coming in. But again, the new character can't take over the movie. It has to be an Indiana Jones movie with the new character coming in is almost like a legit sidekick character. That's both a legit sidekick character, but is also the muscle. And he's learning from Indiana Jones and like I said, learning things like the X doesn't mark the spot.
Hilarious.
It does. It's hilarious.
Or then you could have good. See, and that's where I kind of wish it would have been. I wish in some senses it would have made sense as a kid, because then I could have enjoyed if they would have found a good actor to play a young, then his son. My thought was you have a movie. First off, you don't call him Henry Jones Jr. throughout the movie. Just everyone calls him Dr. Jones, and the few people that know him well call him Indy. And then you have his kid that's actually named Indiana Jones. Just name the darn kid. And then you could actually, because then I feel like you could enjoy it again, because then you could have the inverse where Sean Connery and Harrison Ford had the dad's son. Now you can have Harrison Ford being the dad.
True.
And enjoying those similar things. Like,
unfortunately, they ruined that already.
Could that have been? I know, and they've ruined it.
2 secret kids. Maybe he has 2 secret kids.
And that's where I was going to
it's going to be the blonde. It's going to be the German chick.
He has a secret daughter, and she's literally Laura
better than
Croft.
everyone, smarter than everyone, and more powerful. See, that's what.
Do you think if they do bring in a
I
psychic, it's going to be a female?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
That's why I hated the Crystal Skulls,
100%.
because there was the first time they ruined a male character, because, like you said, here is Indy. He has a father who had a wife and had him, and while they may have had their struggles with each other, he wasn't a bastard child. And then, of course, he's got to have this random bastard child that he really didn't know about in that movie, and it's
it was a weak plot. It was good. All around, it was terrible. It was weak.
So I guess for me, even if they make another bad Indiana Jones, as far as I'm concerned, they already screwed it the first time. So
true.
I guess it's like being stabbed twice. You're like, okay, once was bad enough.
That one was so bad though that it's almost forgettable. Like, there's those movies you see.
It is forgettable.
And it was pre the kind of the commentary that we do now and other people do on YouTube and those mediums that were just, everyone just went and saw it and went,
this sucks,
and then died and it went away and no one cares about it. No one talks about it. It's not a franchise that gets pushed very hard because
the second one sucked.
Yeah, I think that, it's also geared towards an older audience, legitimately, right? I mean, I loved it as a kid.
Yeah.
I don't know what the demographic is, right? Like, because I grew up, like I said, I loved it as a kid. I remember jumping off cherry trees and freaking trying to swing on ropes because it freaking was cool.
Right. Like it was your whip?
Yeah, like I remember, like I said, every day at church when I went to youth group, I had a freaking Indiana Jones hat because it was freaking Indiana Jones. It was awesome.
Oh, no. First of all, there's no such thing as an actor who's bigger than the role of the character. So you can easily replace Harrison Ford with the new Indiana Jones.
I'm gonna step in and say I have to disagree with that. Yes, Hollywood will replace anybody. Without doubt, they will replace anybody for any role there's ever been or ever will be. However, I think there are roles they shouldn't. And Harrison Ford is one of the few actors I would say that most of his roles, until I see someone blow him out of the water, is pretty much irreplaceable from a viewer standpoint. But continue.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about the quality. I'm just saying that if you want to continue something, you can't just keep plugging in the same 90-year-old actor to play that position. Right. That's all I'm saying.
And that's why they'll always replace somebody, even if they shouldn't.
Yeah. And I think Doctor Who is a perfect example. David Tennant was fantastic. And while I get it, you replaced everyone's faces all the time, Matt Smith came in because of good writing. People liked him and thought he was pretty well done. I still think David Tennant's better, but you don't look at it as, oh, that's the inferior version of Doctor Who or of the Doctor. That's just someone else.
I find that as a rough comparison because that is so baked into the show that he regenerates.
You might find it better for
it.
A James Bond comparison?
James Bond's a better one, I would say, because now granted, the difference is it's so stylistically different over time. I mean, their movie 25's coming out, this next one coming out.
Yes.
That it's really hard to compare it, though granted you do have the comparison. Sean Connery was a great Bond. You have Daniel Craig has also been a great Bond. To me, he's been a great Bond. Again, the story writing has been so strong. I mean, that was the same thing. You look at you brought Doctor Who up. You had the charismatic David Tennant doing the Doctor. Then you had, Matt Smith, who's also very charismatic, playing it, and great writing. And then you had Capaldi in the more recent ones, who I think could have been a great Doctor, but was given really, really bad scripts, and he was horrendous. And then we're in the current era of Jodie Whittaker, who pretty much has a continuation of bad writing. I don't know if she could be a good Doctor, but they've been too focused on political agenda, bad story writing, and silliness to even waste the time to watch the current season, because that's how bad it is.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah, and I completely agree, and I can see it being a rough comparison. I'm just trying to point out that if they want to reboot it, quote unquote, or continue it on, I don't personally have an issue with that, because while Indiana Jones is in many ways Harrison Ford, it wouldn't be a deal breaker for me. Number two,
right actor. Again, if you find the right actor, I know the one they talked about for who's attached to it loosely was Chris Pratt, was a long time attached to it. I think he could have been a good option prior to him being overused in that role.
Yes.
I think that if he wasn't in Guardians of the Galaxy, and there was another one I feel like he was in
Jurassic Park.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah,
so between those two, you're not far off an Indiana Jones type character. So I feel like he's already played the role, and
I think he could do a good job, even though
I feel like he'd be playing the
a
same
little
thing.
saturated. I still think you would. I think you could do it.
I think
it's good.
I think the best.
I think he would.
I would. You know who I'd probably pull in? No, I still want Nathan Fillion to play Nathan Drake.
I do too. That's always been my hope. If they ever did it, I wanted
that would be
Who
the
play Nathan Drake?
Nathan Fillion from Firefly.
Nathan Fillion.
He's the captain from Firefly.
Oh, Buck from in Halo. Gotcha.
Yes,
yeah,
Buck from
I think
ODST film. Yes.
Oh, okay, there we go. So, yes, that's another one.
So
So
he's my boy.
He's also Cade from Destiny. If we really want to keep
that's
going
true.
down
That's
the
true.
list here,
He is Cade from Destiny. He was actually legitimately the best part of the Destiny 2 story elements.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. So just to continue, because my internet's trash, so I'm just gonna spill out my guts here real quick, and then you guys can continue on, because it's.
Okay.
I mean, you guys are cutting in and out for me too, so I'm just gonna make it real short and sweet.
Okay.
So yeah, no one's not irreplaceable. One thing I don't want to see is them cutty pasting what they did with Sean Connery and him, and making him the dissatisfied dad, or the kind of off in his own little world and not being helpful thing. It's like let's have a different father type character if that's what need be in the situation. No, I do not want a female Indiana Jones. Of course, that would be the most ridiculous. I don't want to hear Deanna, and then be like, it's Indy, and be like, oh, I don't want to see it.
Oh man, her name would be Indiana Jones, but she goes by Diana or something like that.
That's hilarious. I'm sorry, it's funny. That's funny.
That's exactly that's what they would do.
Man,
do it.
I think you just gave Kathleen Kennedy too many ideas.
Now we're gonna have to delete this part, because you're just gonna be sharing things that are like, that's a great idea. It's like when you see something sarcastic and they're like, wait, no, what do you mean you're kidding? That's the greatest idea.
That was
ever
a
heard.
joke.
No.
Yeah, I could see them doing that. Of course, if they do a female, she's going to be the smartest, the brightest, the most beautiful. She'll be able to beat up guys 3 times her size.
She'll be able to whip things better than Indiana Jones can. Like, she'll grab his whip.
It's going to be, it'll be painful, and it'll be ridiculous.
I agree. We don't want to see that. And again, if you're going to have a character, let the character be the character. If he's going to have adventures, there's someone else. Have them people be their own people. Let people be a character and not just caricatures.
Clearly seems to me that Harrison Ford cares a lot more about his Indiana character than he ever did his Han Solo character. So I think there will be more. He might be more active. That being said, though, he still let Crystal Skull happen. But I think he might be more active in at least trying to make sure his character does not get destroyed. I think he might even have a little bit more say in that, maybe with his past with Spielberg, than he might have been able to, than say Mark Hamill was able to push with JJ
that's kind of an
on how his
point.
character was.
Go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, I guess you'd really have to prove that to me. I mean, you'd have to show me the way he interacts when he talked about Indiana Jones as opposed to the way he interacted when he talked about Star Wars, composed the interact when he, as opposed to when he interacted
I will put
say,
it simply.
Blade Runner
I can put it
or
simply
things
like this,
that.
Philip. He wanted Han Solo to die. He wanted Han Solo to die in New Hope. He didn't want that character to continue.
Yeah, but see, that's just
on.
a character choice. That's a huge difference. He just felt that there should be some type of sacrifice, and he wanted to be the one. That's all. That's someone who wants to play their fan fiction out in their own heads. That's very different to me than I like that character more than that character. Again, all little boys.
Indiana Jones was his start.
Want
though.
to,
Indiana Jones after
in the very
that was
end,
his big thing.
save. No, it's just all little boys want to get in fights and then die for their friends, and that's it. That's all. That was just something he wanted to have
I'm not saying. I'm not saying
and
that.
I don't see that as a. Say again, Christopher.
I was gonna say I'm not saying that, Philip. What I'm saying is, for him though, it's like Star Wars obviously was kind of like obviously a little springboard, but Indiana Jones was his breakthrough. That movies and for him was his breakthrough as an actor. The Star Wars gave him that option. Then obviously he got into it, but Indiana Jones is what springboarded his career. So
actually,
I think he
would have been his breakthrough.
But being a household name, I think Indiana Jones is probably more known for where he became a household name. I think that's what
I don't know.
feels.
I don't know if you can really quantify that because since they're both right on top of each other, like I said, I'm getting every other word, so I'm just going to finish my little points. Then you guys can chat about
go
it.
for it. I apologize.
And then the final thing is that my final concern, other than just bad story writing in general, and of course girl power and women and all that stuff, will be who's the bad guy. I know we discussed the relic, which was one of the things I wanted to bring up, but then the other thing is who's going to be the bad guy. The Nazis were pretty cut and dry, and then of course they started getting into the Russians, and it's like, okay, they're going to continue the Russian thing. Is it just going to be kind of like the Temple of Doom, where it's just some random group of tribal people who are the bad guys?
That was Russians. That was
I guess you could kind of do
there's demonic. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, or you could do like kind of like the Lara Croft games, and or you guys kind of mentioned too, Illuminati type bad group. It's not really a nation that's against you. It's not really that type
Secret
of issue
societies.
or an ethnicity. It's a society of people that want after him. So you could always go that route too, which is probably the politically safest route to go, as opposed to choosing, say, Afghanistan or choosing Russians again, which, the Crystal Skull Russians were ridiculous. They were just
they were
the worst type of
that was caricature. Yeah, that was
of Russians. The accents were terrible. Everything was terrible.
Again, that's the caricature versus the character issue.
Yeah, and so that's what I would say. I mean, I love Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I love Indiana Jones and Last Crusade, and I love Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. I agree. They're complete masterpieces. The second one is trash, and fortunately, you don't even need it because it's meaningless. It's true. The fourth one, of course, is also trash. So in my mind, there's no interference loving the first 1 and 3, and I can completely forget about it. And I probably, unless legitimately people go see 5 and they're like, wow, if only this had been the fourth one or whatever, then I might be tempted to see it. But other than that,
I'm sure I will see it before you do, and I'll tell you, okay, so
we've
see
seen
it
the directors, we've seen the producers,
Joel and I will let
the writers. We know where this is going.
It's true.
So.
And that's the scary part, and that's what brings up the whole conversation. All right, we are back to the two of us. Unfortunately, our other brother had internet issues, so he has said his last piece, and we will wrap up here. Christopher's going to give his last little thoughts, and we'll do a final wrap up here.
Okay, so my final thoughts, kind of going back to at least what kind of the whole thing on there. Again, to from your top down, Disney's just a reboot machine at this point. I don't think they have any creative. There is no creative bone in their body anymore. Just look at it. Look at what's actually like still original Disney stuff that's coming out. It's all the live remakes of all their old animated. Mm-hmm. Truly the only people that's bringing them new stuff is their Marvel studio, which is bringing comic books. So you can argue the true creativity of that. Star Wars, and then clearly probably their biggest creative avenue is because they have Pixar. And I think Pixar probably gives them more creativity still under the Disney name than anything else. So there's that. Lucasfilm needs new management, someone who with a vision, not a demagogue. Kathleen Kennedy now going to that point. One of her quotes that I think is just shows how much she doesn't understand, or she just talks, was her quote where she goes, "We're working away, getting the script where we want it to be, and then we'll be ready to go." What kind of non-answer is that?
Yeah,
Like,
agreed.
And then jokingly, I will say that the only question that Kathleen Kennedy can ever answer quickly is what gender is the Force, which is clearly female.
That's not how the Force works.
That's not how the Force works. Let's see here. Final thoughts. Final thoughts. I almost wish that they would actually call it a reboot. Don't call it a continuation, and actually let it be a reboot of new ideas that are continuing, like that can continue obviously the themes of the original. But I think already trying to call it a continuation, they're already putting themselves in they're putting themselves in a corner, because we know it's not.
I mean, most likely it's going to find a way to be a reboot in the end. Like I said, soft reboot, kind of Star Wars was.
Yeah, exactly.
And again,
because there's no. Because even if you do it as a baton passing, that's still then really more of a reboot than a continuation.
Well, it comes to integrity, right? It comes to the integrity of the storytelling. It comes to the integrity of what they produce. Now, granted, they could spin something out really great. I will not count them out. The problem is that their tracking history has shown that they are unwilling to put the work into a final product, and that's the reason you have directors fired, writers fired. The door of people leaving and coming and leaving Lucasfilm is just a non-stop trend of stuff. I mean, like I said, look at the Obi-Wan series. They were so ready to film that the people they had people on set to film that had licensed things down, and they said, "We're releasing you from your contracts because because we had contracts done. There were people working, and they're like, oh, sorry, we're releasing you for contract because this is an indefinite hold. It's not a delay; it's an indefinite hold. That's a scrap. I mean, that's a major cost.
A scrap.
That's easily millions of dollars lost right there. I would expect, because you still have to pay people for some level of it. You built something, like you didn't just go, oh, we were still building sets. We hadn't even talked to crew yet. So they've built stuff. They've hired people. People put hours into it. Money spent. So this is, again, the studio is in. People that are running Lucasfilm are not putting the work in. Again, you look at Kathleen Kennedy's work history. We didn't really talk about that much. I'll just say a brief little thing is she should be good. The unfortunate thing with Kathleen Kennedy is that her pedigree proves she should be good. She has worked on enough projects. I don't even care what her level of involvement was. She's worked on enough mainstream products from producers with the greatest producers, the greatest directors, and big and small movies, that she should have been ready for this, to run this studio. And it's not like they're Marvel putting out 20 or 30 movies over 10 years. We're talking, she had to put out 5 movies, 6 movies over 5 years. It's not an undoable task. And she had as much help as she wanted in all reality. Like, you tell me they didn't have the money and the budget to be like, especially after the last one, especially after making $2 billion on The Force Awakens. She could be like, yeah, I want to spend $2 million to buy the best writers in the planet. They're like, okay. She has complete control over that. So the fact that she has not put the work into running the studio effectively, she has not put the work into making sure things are on schedule, that things are planned out, the whatever the culture cancer they have going on over there, with all the things that are going, that is her fault. And it's definitely, I don't believe it's because she's unable to do it. It's because she's unwilling to do it, is why I say. Because
I would agree.
She has had enough experience in the space to do a good job. And so the fact that she's not, either the entire, there's no excuse, because you should. It's just it's like I said, you can't be in work in that space for that long and go, I learned nothing. I just don't believe it. She's not a stupid person. She's not a stupid person. She's smart. She has enough experience. The problem is she's not using it for some reason. I think she decided she wanted to coast.
She's clearly not incompetent.
No, she just wanted to coast. She has two things on her mind. I think she wanted to coast in this job, and I think that she wanted to put agendas in, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Granted,
Yeah, as I said, she's a demagogue.
and the thing that's crazy is
complete.
you don't probably know this because you have to look it up, and not saying you won't look it up, but this is the thing. George Lucas is the one that hired her.
Yeah, that I do know.
He's the one that brought her on as president of Lucasfilm prior to Disney buying them.
I know.
So it's not like she didn't work with George Lucas. He trusted her prior to Disney buying her. That's not even a Disney thing. I mean, Disney's done a terrible job of managing this stuff and not stepping in there earlier and being like, no.
Yeah.
I don't know why they haven't. Bob Iger said things where he's like, oh, too many Star Wars movies. Again, it's not too many Star Wars movies. It's
too many bad Star Wars movies.
Yeah, it's bad Star Wars movies. If the Marvel universe hasn't hit full fatigue yet with as many movies that it has, now if there's a franchise I say maybe fatiguing, it is comic book hero movies. I enjoy them, but I'm not super excited about anyone's coming up, to be honest. I'll probably see some, but I'm not like, oh my God, I gotta see this.
Here was it to me. I've spent 20 years getting to their end of, their Infinity War saga.
10 years.
Here, out of the new ones coming out, I probably will want to see Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I like, but Benedict Cumberbatch is quite enjoyable.
I'm trying to think of what other ones are coming out that I've heard that I'm like, actually interest me. Like, only one that's ever interested me is if they do another Spider-Man, because I have really enjoyed the Tom Holland Spider-Mans. Other than that, it's pretty much that one and Doctor Strange 2.
So, I mean, that's exactly it. There's a level that people are going to start losing interest. Now, the population gets bigger, movie tickets keep going up, so they're going to make money on these things. Kids are growing up. There's always a new customer base, per se. And you have to be clever with it. Kevin Feige's done a pretty good job overall with the Marvel stuff.
Yeah, I'd agree.
The really question comes to what did they do with Lucasfilm? And it's kind of, again, it's bizarre to me that Kathleen Kennedy has any input on it. I'm hoping that in real reality she doesn't. The interesting thing too is I think her contract expires in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to do a deep dive in some of this stuff later in the future, but I wanted to share this stuff out there today because, instead of wrapping up here because this is a franchise that I really care about. Like, and again, it's not even one because I'm worried about it being good anymore. It's just, I don't want to, I don't want to
see another franchise fall.
Yeah, it really is. It's another franchise of destruction. Okay, that's the opening, parody, which is, another one bites the dust.
Because when you told me we were doing this video, like I said, my response back to you was, oh, we're going to want to talk about all 4 of the movies, and then you're like, no, the newest one coming out, and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
what? So I already, even in that sense, it's like, if you're saying this is coming out next year in July, and now thing is everything, not even
sure
scripts done yet, but like marketing wise, it's not even there.
I'll be surprised if it actually comes out in that time frame, to be honest. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. Another delay, a year delay. Like I said, again, the reason I brought this up is because I want to share with people kind of the thoughts that I'm having now at the moment with this project, and as it moves along, and we see what changes. So we have a kind of the documentation of what's happening. So
exactly. So I'd say my final thoughts. I really do. As any franchise that I've grown up and cared for, hearing there's a new movie, I want it to be great. Especially knowing that the past of 2 out of the 4 so far is, A+, A++ for, I'd say like if you put all 4 of them together, you'd probably average out as a B, just because you put 2 and 4 as pretty much Fs.
Right.
But you have 1 and 3 as A pluses that pretty much, kind of equal, giving you a decent for it. So, again, yeah. So I want it to be great. I hope, we'll have to see what's happening on there. Like you said, I want to, my biggest things will have to be already, what are they planning on? I think, what's the device? What are they going after? What's the archaeological device that they're going after? And then who is the opponents? Yeah. Because I think depending on those 2, we're already going to know if this is going to be another Doom Crystal Skull or if it's going to be an Ark Last Crusade.
Yeah, totally.
So, and like I said, my fears that obviously we pointed out in this is the red flags of all of the production company, the parent company, the people involved is already just scary red flags. And that's it. That's what I leave it as. Like, I hope it's. I want it. I want another. I would love to have another Indiana Jones, but like you said, seeing the track record and seeing the people involved, it's scary.
It is. So, well, that's good enough for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Please like and subscribe to our channels. If you have any thoughts or comments, please throw them down in the doobly-doo below. Love to hear your thoughts on what we're talking about. Have an excellent, excellent evening, and stay safe out there, because there's some crazy weather out in the East Coast, and I think some in the Midwest as well. So have an excellent day, and we'll see you next time. Do 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 do. Do 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 do.